In today's video, we're going to talk about how to get started playing games that aren't Dungeons and Dragons. This video is sponsored by Start Playing, and more on them later. Greetings gamers, my name is Anto, and as a free action, I can tell you to like and subscribe. And today I want to talk to you about how to get started playing games that aren't D&D. There are hundreds of systems out there beyond D&D, each offering a different tone or genre or a different style of play to Dungeons and Dragons. And if you're looking to play more games this year, this video is really going to help you get started. Now, most folks who play TTRPGs these days got their start with D&D 5e, and in my experience, the two main arguments that I've seen for not wanting to try other systems are time and learning the rules. When it comes to time, a lot of folks have limited gaming time in their week, and they don't necessarily want to spend that time on a new system that they're not sure if they're going to like, instead of playing the game that they already know that they do like. Then there's the fact that a lot of RPGs, especially some of the more popular ones, are more complicated than your typical board game. It feels like it's hard to just read all of the rules and get up and running in the space of a single evening. So you want to start playing games that aren't D&D, but you're not sure where to start? Well, the easiest place to start is to talk to your regular gaming group and bring up some of the game systems that you're interested in playing and see if anyone else in your group is interested in playing them with you. Now, given that you're here watching this video, I'm going to assume that either your regular group have explicitly said they're not interested, or they were super unenthusiastic in their response.
Yeah, I guess we could try something else
kind of response, but then 6 months later, no one has actually pitched any other systems or tried to run anything or really put any effort into playing something other than the main system that you play. So the first place I would look for folks to play other games with is your friendly local game store if you've got one nearby. Most local game stores have no trouble getting D&D games off the ground, but other systems are a little bit more difficult, so by letting them know that you're interested, you'll be surprised at the amount of systems your local gamers are eager to run. Now, one of the benefits of running a game through your local store like this is that a lot of publishers offer different support and tools to help stores and clubs. And if you do get a group together for your new game, your local store might be able to pick up some free tools and resources to make your experience better. But if you've not got a local store nearby or haven't had any luck finding a group to play non-D&D games with in your local store, the next place I'd hit up would be some of the online groups. You'll often be able to find Facebook groups of local gamers if you want to scroll through all of the shrimp Jesuses, but there's also the Looking for Games subreddit, the Roll20 game browser, and those are places where you'll usually find folks looking to run games. If there's a specific system that you're interested in, most publishers have a Discord server where you'll find plenty of folks interested in that game, and you should be able to find someone willing to run an intro game for you. But when it comes to online resources, I actually have a new favorite way of finding non-D&D games to try out, and that's this video's sponsor, Start Playing. Start Playing is an online space for finding professional game masters to run pretty much any system that you can think of. Now, when Start Playing approached me to sponsor a video, I'd never paid to play any kind of TTRPG before. I'd run a one-shot as part of a Kickstarter reward in the past, but that was my only real experience with any form of kind of paid game, so I really didn't know what to expect. So I told the folks over at Start Playing that if I was going to do this sponsored video, that I wanted to use the site, find some games, play with them, go through the whole pipeline of the site so I could give you my honest thoughts on it. So that's what I did. Now, as with all platforms for finding games, the vast majority of options out there are for D&D 5th edition. And while you can search by specific game systems on Start Playing, you can't search for multiple systems or exclude a system from your search. And this was one of the first things that I fed back to the Start Playing team, as it's something I'd love to see them change. One of the biggest hurdles that non-D&D games face is just simple visibility. Most casual TTRPG fans have never heard about systems other than D&D, so just getting these game systems in front of folks is a big step in the right direction. So being able to filter out D&D 5e would be a huge improvement. But I spent a little time browsing through the listings on Start Playing, looking for games to play in. Now you can find one-shots or ongoing campaigns for all sorts of systems on the platform. I was a little limited by the time I had to make this video, so I had to go quite narrow with my search, but I found a couple of options and settled on a one-shot for Monster of the Week, an action horror game built on the Powered by the Apocalypse system. Now, I've been watching X-Files for the first time lately, and the pitch of this one-shot was playing as part of an FBI task force hunting down monsters a la the X-Files, so that was right up my street, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, that's the one. That is the game that I need to play in. Now, the game was run by Zach, and I'm going to pause here to give an enormous shout out to him. I've never played the system before, never played a Powered by the Apocalypse game, and it was my first time using Start Playing, and Zach was great at guiding me through everything that I needed to know with the platform and the system. And not just that, but the session itself was a hell of a blast and some of the most fun I've ever had as a player. Monster of the Week went from being a system I'd vaguely heard of to straight up there to a system I would eagerly play in the future, or one that I would be happy to run. Our group of players were a newly formed FBI task force investigating a murder in an LA college that had some supernatural undertones, and I was playing as a former criminal attached to consult, as my character had some experience with man-eating beasties in the past. The system itself is way more roleplay focused than D&D, and I rolled maybe half a dozen rolls the entire evening, but I still absolutely loved it. It was exactly the kind of vibe and game that I'd been looking for when I set out to find something that wasn't D&D. And that's the biggest benefit of Start Playing to me. I can pay to get my ideal intro experience to any game system. If I wanted to get into a game system myself, it usually involves reading all the rules to the point where I have enough mastery of them to guide my players through and try and convert them. So it's really nice to be able to play in a one-shot with a professional GM who has tailored the experience to people who are new to the system that they're running, who provides character sheets and other resources to get you up to speed with the game, and who can give you a taste of a system to see if it's something that you're interested in kind of diving fully into and playing again. My session of Monster of the Week cost me about the same as it would to go and see a movie and get some popcorn and a drink, which, considering I got like 4.5 hours of custom interactive content and got to try out a new system, seems like an absolute steal to me. I'm going to leave the GM for that session, Zach's details, down in the description below, because he really was great, and I highly encourage anyone interested in Monster of the Week to head over to his profile on Start Playing and check him out. Now, while I don't see myself switching to Start Playing for all of my games, like a long-running campaign kind of situation, I will absolutely be using it to get a taste of other systems that I'm interested in without having to dive in the deep end, especially when all of the other methods that I've talked about in this video don't bear results. You know, I have been pestering a lot of the people I know to be like, hey, will you run this game for me? Will you run this game for a group of us? I've been prodding at some of my YouTuber friends to be like,
I know that you play this system, will you run it for me, please?
But when that doesn't work and I want to try out some of these systems, I will absolutely be going back to Start Playing to get that professional level experience for a first time introduction to these systems, because I feel like your first introduction to a system is so important for how you vibe with it and for whether or not that you pick it up and get interested in it long term, that I honestly think it is kind of worth spending the money to get a professional DM to guide you through the experience, because they have the knowledge of the system and they're doing this frequently. Start Playing has a bunch of rating tools and reviews, so you can go and look at these GMs and see what other people are saying about them, and also which kind of pillars of their GMing style they've been rated for. So are they rated for accessibility? Are they highly rated for teaching beginners on the rules? All of those kind of things. So it's really easy to kind of decide which games speak to you both on the vibe of the game, but also the strengths of the GM. And then the last way to get into games that aren't D&D is the do-it-myself method.
I'll do it myself.
With this method, you're going to take on the burden of learning the rules of the system you're interested in so that you can be the one to teach the other players the system as you play. This is easily my least favourite way to get into a new system because it involves the most work by far, but I'm willing to bet it's the way that most of us end up doing it. I would really be interested, let me know in the comments below, if you've learned a whole new system and then taught it to your players to try and get them into it. instead of using one of these other methods. I'm really interested to see how many of us have taken that approach. I know that I have, as evidenced by all of the books on my shelves. If this is the option you end up going with, most systems have some kind of quick start rules which you can pick up for free, or at least for very cheap on somewhere like DriveThruRPG, which is where I would recommend starting. You want to resist the urge to go out and buy a whole bunch of books because you're hyped on the system. I've learned that the hard way multiple times. But once you've got a grasp of the basic rules for your new system, get yourself some pre-generated character sheets for the players so that they don't have to use any kind of brain power to make characters. They can just turn up and play, and then schedule a session, ideally outside of your usual game time, so it doesn't feel like they're giving up a night of D&D to play something else, and then run the game for them and see how it goes. If your regular group isn't interested in playing the system that you're interested in, ask your wider friend group and see if there's anyone else that's interested. You'd be surprised, even by people who you don't think are into RPGs, there's a lot of folks out there that are actually at least a little bit curious about the whole D&D style thing, especially in the last couple of years. And just offering to run a game for them might be enough to make a convert out of them. Just last year, I ran a one-shot for a group of friends who'd never expressed any interest in RPGs before. They just mentioned one night at our board games night, hey, do you want to run D&D? At some point I was like, yeah, sure, no pressure, it's fine. I ran it, and then since then one of those players has been like,
when are we running D&D again? Can we play D&D again?
And they are a full dice goblin in the making. So you'd be surprised at how many of your friends that you've never spoken to about TTRPGs are primed and ready to get invested. But if no one that you know wants to play one of these games that you've learned, go back through this list and be the GM offering to run the starter game for other people in your friendly local store or in an online group. If you have other ways to start playing non-D&D games, I'd love to hear them down in the comments below. And if you want to keep watching, check out this video where I talk about what I bring with me to run games of D&D in person. But until next time, happy gaming.